Did ancient Romans need voter ID to combat against voter fraud? Well, firstly, to vote, you needed to be a Roman citizen, which I want to point out gave you a huge amount of privileges, including but not limited to the right to a legal trial, immunity from some taxes, the right to be not sentenced to crucifixion, and most notably for this conversation, the right to vote. So it was hugely desirable as a legal status. Italians even fought a huge war against the Romans to be given Roman citizenship. So how did you prove that you were a citizen? Well, every newborn Roman was registered within 30 days-ish from their birth into a registry. Obviously, however, 100,000 people arriving on voting day, referring to a list is hugely impractical. So did Romans carry some kind of ID to prove they were citizens? Well, during the empire, there's some evidence of Romans having birth certificates of sorts, which usually contain the name of witnesses, and retiring soldiers received bronze plaques to prove they were new citizens. And when the Emperor Augustus came into power, every new citizen received a legal document, but there's no real evidence this was widespread or even really existed during the Republican era. It's evidence that the main proof of citizenship came from witnesses, powerful people who could back you up. Ancient societies were much smaller than our own. Everyone lived in tight, close-knit communities. A citizen would typically have a large family, a clan, a patron who could all attest to them being a citizen. Cicero, in a famous case, was trying to prove the citizenship status of a friend, and he used a lot of witnesses as basically the meat of his argument. But unfortunately, not everyone had a Cicero, and thus this wasn't a workable system in a voting environment. So how did they determine whether you were eligible to vote or not? Well, quite simply, despite the late Republic being one of the best documented periods in ancient history, we don't actually know. Talking about a landmark vote on land reform, Plutarch described a scene which was hugely chaotic, where people swarmed into Rome from all over Italy, climbed onto the roofs of houses adjacent to the Campus Martius, which was the place where elections were held, and they all shouted down their vote. This was obviously before the secret ballot. Did anyone check their citizenship status of these people? Well, there's simply no evidence of it, but the consul, which was like the prime minister, did issue an edict to expel all non-citizens from the city during the period of the vote. How was this enforced? Was it enforced at all? Did non-citizens have the proclivity to vote anyway? If so, why did they fight a civil war to get citizenship? We simply do not know. But the thing is, the system was so dogmatic in its separation of people into different voting centuries or blocks, to the point where if you were part of the lower classes or lower blocks, the chances your vote would actually count at all was very, very small. So obviously there was some kind of system. It's been proposed that there was allegedly a separate chamber where people waited in their voting blocks before voting started, where they would be checked, but simply we don't really know, or maybe I should be more humble and say I don't know. But if you have any insights, please let me know in the comments below.